The vagus nerve is a really important nerve in our body, and it's in charge of like our rest and digest side of our nervous system. The vagus nerve goes kind of everywhere. It starts from your brainstem and it literally innervates every single organ all the way down to your colon. It's always taking in information and bringing up to your brain, telling you how safe you are, helping your immune system be robust, bringing down inflammation. And it's when people are feeling calm and they can socialize. That's when their vagus nerve is nice and active.
My guest today is Stephanie Canestraro. Dr. Stephanie is the CEO and founder of the Vegas Clinic and a healthcare visionary who embarked on a remarkable journey that began with a personal health crisis, leading her into a transformative world of functional medicine. Specializing in elite athlete care, she combines her chiropractic skills with comprehensive functional medicine testing and tailored interventions to optimize performance and address health concerns. Her particular focus is also including in areas such as concussions, degenerative neurological diseases, and gastrointestinal health. Welcome to the Longevity and Lifestyle Podcast, Stephanie. It's such a pleasure to have you on today.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'd love to start with the vagus nerve. Your clinic's called the Vegas Clinic, right? So it's not Las Vegas, right? It's quite far from that, actually. Where did the name and the focus around Vegas and vagus nerve come from?
Yeah, so the vagus nerve is a really important nerve in our body, and it's in charge of like our rest and digest side of our nervous system. So, the vagus nerve goes kind of everywhere. It starts from your brainstem and it literally innervates every single organ all the way down to your colon or your large intestine. It ends in your large intestine. And it's always taking in information and bringing up to your brain, telling you how safe you are, helping your immune system be robust, bringing down inflammation. And it's when people are feeling calm and they can socialize. That's when their vagus nerve is nice and active, right? And so my vagus nerve, I felt like got hijacked. I went from like a completely normal functioning human in 2010 to all of a sudden like severe anxiety, panic, my heart rate was irregular. I started having nervous system issues, my gut. And, through a lot of research and playing around with my body, I realized my vagus nerve was hijacked. So it's one of the most calming nerves in our body. And once it can be infected with different infections, it can be just based on what's going on in your body, it's going to give you signals and you're going to start to feel uneasy when your vagus nerve isn't functioning properly or you have low vagal tone. And higher vagal tone and how you measure your vagus nerve is through something called heart rate variability, which a lot of people talk about these days because that's what you're trying to get to when you're meditating or, when people are using deep breathing, they're actually affecting their heart rate variability. And it's all the one thing that you can measure with it can increase your longevity if you have like better vagal tone. It can increase literally, it blocks you from having multiple diseases. Like the list is just so long. So, I just thought if there's ways I could get my vagus nerve to be functioning properly again, and I can talk about how we do that, but that's why the vagus nerve and the Vegas Clinic. And I mean, the vagus nerve is trending right now. So a lot of people know about it. And our clinic was named the Vegas Clinic since 2015. When not many people were talking about it. And so a lot of people are getting diagnosed right now with, you have autonomic dysfunction. So they're like Googling vagus nerve and coming to our clinic. So we're having people from all over the world with all these different issues. So yeah, most important nerve in the body. That's how I kind of got into it. I mean, there's so much more I can go into about the vagus nerve and but that's Cole's notes.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig into it as well, because obviously I think people listening might have heard it before, etc. But to really deep dive into it, we haven't had one of these episodes yet. So I'm excited to look at it with you as well. Can you talk about what had happened back in 2010 that really triggered your vagus nerve? And like, did it come out of the blue? What happened there? Can you share the story with us?
Yeah, I had always had kind of like gastrointestinal issues, which, was brushed off by conventional medicine as you have like an irritable bowel, like just, there was always like some weaknesses there. And even as a kid, there were some signs that, something wasn't really right. And in 2010, it's always like a perfect storm, right? I was end of chiropractic college So I'm doing my board exams. My grandfather had a major surgery of which I had helped him connect with the surgeon that did it, and he almost died afterwards. And so it was like this very crazy, stressful time, right? It's always like a perfect storm. Probably not eating as well, living in kind of student housing, just like partying a little bit at that age.
Mm-hmm.
And literally I was sitting in a movie theater and I went from like a normal person to all of a sudden this wave of anxiety, and kind of like electricity came over me. My legs felt what people explain restless leg to be. My heart rate increased. I literally had to leave. And it was the start of this years battle with what I didn't know was going on. These symptoms turned into neurological symptoms. I had Bell's palsy, so half my face was paralyzed.
Wow.
It was transient, thankfully for me, but still there were some deficiencies. My eyeball would be bulging one day. I would have the feeling of bugs crawling all over me. I actually threw out my mattress in the middle of the night. I had stroke-like symptoms. I was rushed to the hospital, injected with gandiolinium, which they have to use to see if you're having a stroke. But then I reacted to the gan, and it was just this. And then I started just bleeding from my bowels. Like I was actually like a complete mess, and no one could really help me. And as things settled down, things that stayed with me was I had like severe fasciculations in my muscles, right? And sometimes to the point where I had a full contraction. And it was literally driving me crazy. And they started taking me seriously because you're normal, sent home, sent home. Never had been to the emergency room before in my entire life. And, just like kind of like that gaslit thing where you're having a panic attack, we hear it a lot. And I took my health into my own hands, but finally they sent me to a specialist where they did an MRI of my brain, and they're like, you have some plaques, but you don't have multiple sclerosis because you don't have 5 plaques, but you have like this autoimmune going on. And I had autoimmune markers, and so essentially my nervous system was being attacked by my own body, but no one could ever explain to me why, or why it turned on like that. And so that's when I dove into functional medicine. I actually found Dr. Terry Walls at that time, and she was in a tilt recline wheelchair. So she had full blown MS, and she had reversed it with diet, etc. So obviously my gut had always been a mess. I then found out I had celiac disease, cut out the gluten, still was having problems, but improving. And then that's when I really dove into like fixing my gut, eradicating parasites, and actually didn't even realize what I actually had at that time until 2021. So like what really kind of turned it on, which I'll talk about. But the whole thing was that's how I got into like really trying to find the root cause of what's going on, and help people that were hopeless or, told these ridiculous things like, we're going to watch and wait and see that you don't end up in a wheelchair. That doesn't sound great, like a great option to me at all.
No.
Yeah. So that's what happened then. And then my story continues, but I got really healthy for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, so that's kind of how I got into functional medicine, interested in the vagus nerve because of that severe anxiety, and fixing my gut and all of the stuff that the different pathways where the vagus nerve takes information from the gut, because the gut literally has more nerve endings in our enteric nervous system. That's the nervous system around our gut. We have more nerve endings in our gut, in our enteric nervous system, than we do in our entire spinal cord.
Wow.
So, people don't really realize that so much anxiety can be coming from the gut, and it's that whole gut-brain connection. And the vagus nerve is just one of those direct connections, but there's multiple ways where our gut is communicating with our brain through even the bacteria that are living in our gut or parasites. So at that time, killing parasites in my gut was a game changer for me. And that's what I do with a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So that's how it started.
Thank you for sharing that. And we're going to jump into a few different things, but I just want to pick up on the point around parasites, because a lot of people are like, parasites, like what? Or I don't travel that much. And I mean, I've lived in third world countries as well. So when I had my first full-blown gut health test, mm-hmm. and I was in boarding school when I was a teenager, and I was vegetarian at the time, they would give me white toast. They're like, we don't know what to do. We have meat on the menu, so I have white toast. Yeah, I mean, total...
the most damaging for your gut. I know, that's what I thought too. I was like, I just need something plain. like
this will do. Not even vegetables. Like I have white toast anyway. Mm-hmm. And hopefully it was grass-fed butter at the time, but I don't know. Anyway,
I
the
doubt
white
it.
definitely was destroying things. But let's talk just briefly about parasites and what should people look out for parasites.
I mean, one of my mentors and close friends, he kind of coined the term, if you have a pulse, you have a parasite, right? So, I mean, these things are not rare. They are 100% part of your body right now. There's nobody that doesn't. There is something that can be said about parasitic load, though. And why parasites are present and thriving in higher loads. And that's usually the terrain, heavy metals, lots of, pH in your gut should be a certain level. If it's off, parasites can thrive. So our body we have to create an environment that makes them not want to be there, first of all, or thrive there. But so parasites live, and they live in your small intestine. So everyone's like, oh, I had a colonoscopy, we have this coiled small intestine that is like, no one's ever been in there. People do endoscopies and they can go in from the top and they can see like a small amount, and you can go in from the colon and you don't even see the whole colon. They embed in the lining. Most of them are, a lot of them are actual microscopic, right? But I mean, and they're hard to detect. So especially when you don't have an overt infection, right? Which, North America, one of the most common parasites is Giardia. Giardia is like in the water. If you go in rivers, you can get it. It's like so easy, and we should know more that can go chronic. It's not just an acute thing. It can stay there at a low level, affecting your health. You don't really know. It can be, and some people are like, oh, but my bowel movements are normal. But they have rashes all over, or they have acne or something like that, because like their liver is sluggish and backed up. And that's like, parasites like to live in the liver, the gallbladder. Like there's just so much that like is so obvious now that like isn't talked about at all. And I think like a parasite cleanse totally changed my life, doing it properly. Because the first time I did a parasite cleanse, I didn't do it properly, which means I didn't work on drainage first. I didn't have binders to bind up the toxins as you kill off the parasites. And even just that in itself, people will see they get severe anxiety when you kill off a parasite, but you're not getting rid of the parasite junk because they're toxic. They hold their weight in toxins.
Yeah. Can you walk through the protocol that you would recommend for that? And would you say anybody could try it from home with the
Yeah, I'd say, the thing is like, okay, so things have changed in the last 3 years. So people used to do this parasite cleanse that were healthy and just like be fine. But everyone's liver is a little bit more stagnant. Everyone's nervous system is a little bit more activated. So it's better to have guidance, even if the guidance is like someone who's just made videos for you. And anyways, but we use based on testing and based on what we find, different parasite cleanses. But I'd say our general one, and the one that helped me at the time, and I didn't do a specific test I did a test at that time, but this was just, I was going to do it anyways. And it's cell core. So you need a practitioner to access their stuff anyways. And it is, you start off with draining. So supporting the kidney and liver, and, making sure people are pooping. You're emptying your colon every day, right? Because you recirculate those toxins when you're constipated. So, and constipation is a big cause is parasitic load. So just side note on that. And constipation is a sign of your vagus nerve not functioning properly as well, because it's in charge of that migrating motor complex. So yeah, you want to increase drainage, and you also want to take a binder. So we use they're little black pills. Like people, I compare it to, if people go to the hospital and they have to get their stomach pumped from some sort of poison, they put like a charcoal in there, an activated charcoal. So it's a black pill like that, like it binds, it's like a sponge. So you're giving your body that little bit of you're taking the load off the body for a little bit. And so we use humic and fulvic acids, not charcoal. Charcoal we use, again, with acute poisonings and stuff like that, like activated coconut charcoal. But we're using humic and fulvic, sometimes different clays. It depends what people can handle. But as part of that cleanse, it's humic and fulvics. And there's different types that bind up different toxins in your body. Some are better at binding metals. Some are better at binding biological toxins, which are our own body's waste that we make just from breaking down food, from our own processes. We have our own waste. And then there's biological toxins from candida, parasites, mold, bacteria, viruses, right? The damage they do to our body. So we just are taking a load off with different binders, and then we're killing with something called mimosa pudica, and then a blend of different cloves and different herbs, neem, artemisia, wormwood, all like a kind of blend that are known to eradicate these parasites. And people pass flukes and worms if they actually go through their stool in 80 to 90% of cases, there's visual parasites, so they can see them.
Wow.
And so, that's obviously powerful for people to see, and you feel better. And there's often like a release, like when people have the bowel movement where a lot of worms are coming out or something, they feel very anxious for a moment, and then it passes and they're so calm, and then in the toilet is all of these beings that are living off of us. And the thing with parasites is the reason we have a high load of them, and that's why the binders are important, or because we have some sort of toxin, something's not right in our terrain in there, that they're thriving and our immune system's not getting them, right? So there's things to look at, but that's why the binders are important, because you're change the terrain, right? So that they're not having the fuel that kind of feeds them. And in that way, maybe they're protecting us in a certain way because they house a lot of the heavy metals that could be very detrimental for us, right? So, obviously getting that out and flushing it out is
really important,
hugely powerful.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all about, you're never going to get rid of all of them, and nor do you want to, so you want balance. And
yeah. No, thank you for sharing that as well, because I think people hear parasite and they're like, oh, horror. And as you said as well, like not all of them are that detrimental, but it's, I guess, getting on top of which ones are. And then thank you for walking through the protocol, because it's just not common knowledge. I'm actually going to speak to my functional medicine doctor about it too and see what she knows. I just think it's a good, probably, would you say it's like a protocol for once a year, once every 5 years?
Yeah. So depending on like how sick someone is, it's like we'll do it more often, and we'll do little short ones over the full moon, because it's becoming more common knowledge that parasites are more active over the full moon when our melatonin's lower. And there's always been that thing where like paramedics are like, oh my gosh, people are crazier on the full moon, right? Oh, what happens on the full moon? Well, they hijack our brain because they're more active, they're making more toxins, and they're doing it like they're more active. And parasites are most active through the night, so we do like usually a dose of killing before bed. I hate saying killing, whatever, antimicrobial, like we do it before bed to kind of get at them. But yeah, so there, yeah, it's hugely, we do it. We think that you should do it at least once a year. And actually in 2021, when all of a sudden I got sick again,
let's talk about that.
We'll talk about it, but that was the first year that I skipped my parasite cleanse, because I was just like busy, and I was like, oh, whatever, I don't feel like taking that many. Like I was just, and not that I'm saying you get dependent on them, but a lot happened in 2021. A lot of people got a lot sicker, right? And yes, there was COVID. Yes, there's a vaccine that has the spike protein of COVID. Those two things are inflammatory, but there's also a release of a man-made frequency called 5G, which, is supposed to make everything faster and more efficient, like as if it's not fast and efficient enough. But I think because we're energetic beings, right? We have a frequency.
Yeah.
We have like a measurable frequency. Our heart is electric. All of our nerves, our brain. Okay. So now if you stress the system, so just for a little bit of history, and sorry, I'm kind of going into kind of some EMFs because
this is a topic of the show as well. So keep going.
Yeah, I really feel like it's important to start to open people's eyes to that, because frequencies can be healing. And if anyone's ever seen like a, bioregulatory medicine practitioner or people that understand frequency, they use frequency a lot to try to heal people. There's rife frequencies, which have been used to eradicate parasites, because there's a frequency, the parasites, that kills the parasites, right? So you can hold on to something, get a frequency through your body without taking any pills, and you can kill parasites and pass them in your stool. Okay. So that's the power of frequency. Everyone, if you look at quotes from Nikola Tesla, if you want to know the future of medicine, look into frequency. Einstein talked about frequency. But you can't really well, you can sell frequency machines, but you can't sell them at the rate that you sell different medications and, keeping a population unwell. So, and people are very powerful when they have strong frequencies, right? So now we've had 3G, 4G, whatever. Those were introduction of new waves at some point. And, I'm sure when they first brought those out, there were people getting sick because at every kind of turn of the century, when they introduce a new or harness a new frequency and it gets concentrated on humans, there are changes in their health because of the way that people can't adapt or other things that they have in their body, which I'll get into. But 5G is very, very different. It's a man-made frequency. It's a direct wave. So 4G, 3G, they're called radio waves, right? Mm-hmm. So radio waves already existed and they were harnessed, and then we were getting exposed to more of them. And I'm not saying it was even good but they're scalar waves. So they come at you in different, they're not like a beam. So picture that's what 5G is, more like this direct beam wave. Mm-hmm. And there's been people studying it for years, waving a red flag going, do not emit this to humans. We need more studies. We've only studied animals and it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and what they were seeing was cardiac symptoms, neuropsychiatric symptoms, infertility, mm-hmm. Increase in prolactin, like the milk making hormone in males, right? And the argument is that it only absorbs like into your skin. Well, now they've kind of showed, well, what it does it can affect your sweat glands, and your sweat glands are like a little antenna into the rest of your body. Mm-hmm. And so these direct waves through these antennas, through the sweat glands, are actually being able to access our cells through our voltage gated calcium channels. Mm-hmm. Now, I have worked with athletes for 13 years. I look at their blood work twice a year because they do it with their teams. Mm-hmm. I have never seen increased calcium in their bloodstream at the amount I am now. Calcium is the most tightly regulated molecule in our body. When it goes high, it stresses our body. It screws up the electricity because our cells communicate through minerals. Mm-hmm. And calcium is you could argue, the most important, right? It has the tightest range, even when you look at blood work mm-hmm. of minerals, because it can kill you either way. Same with other ones, right? But mm-hmm. so your body is going to do whatever it has to regulate calcium. Mm-hmm. Okay. Extra calcium overheats the body from the inside. So we're almost getting like microwaved. And that's what I'm seeing. And that's what I saw in myself mm-hmm. in November 2021. And I just happened to be in Las Vegas, where they had just released something called 5G plus, which was only released in 40 states over top of different arenas. And because I was there, I actually went to a game, and I'm bathed in this. And another thing that I had the week before was a severe black mold exposure. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I was not feeling well from that, but I was getting over it, and 2 weeks before that, I had said, I feel the healthiest I have in my adult life. Okay. So now I'm in Las Vegas. I'm at dinner with people because I feel fine. I chase someone's kids around the table, like a cute little, 3-year-old. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden my heart rate goes up and does not come down. Wow. Okay. Tachycardia. I had chest pain down my left arm, all of this. Wow. I get blood work for the first time in my life. I see my calcium's overdrive. I feel electric, by the way. My hair's standing on end. All of my organs start hurting, my kidneys, mm-hmm. my liver. I'm in severe anxiety, the same I felt back in the day. My muscle twitches are back for the first time. Mm-hmm. What I learned retrospectively after that is that also these waves mm-hmm. make mold and mycotoxins in our body 600 times stronger. 600.
Wow.
Mold is known to be neuropsychiatric, neurological symptoms. It decreases your immune system. It slugs up your liver, which your liver needs to drain for you to be healthy. Mm-hmm. And then because of those changes, it can reactivate something in your body called stealth infections, which are my main focus. And it's what I'm trying to turn off in people, along with get their mineral balance right, get them detoxed from, all of this electromagnetic frequencies that we're going to have to learn to live with and adapt to. But first it needs to be addressed, and people need to be told that it's part of the reason that their health is changing. Right. And by the way, all of these symptoms that you get from people who are EMF sensitive or electrosensitive are things that you would equate to vagus nerve being hijacked, right? So all of a sudden, again, I'm having severe anxiety, sense of impending doom, fear of everyone dying, fears that I cannot, and crazy vivid dreams. I am just like, my nervous system is like this, and I'm taking the things to try to calm it down. And I know something's been turned on. So I test my blood, but I can't test it fast because I don't have the labs here. I have to send it to the States. I had to get home, first of all, which was terrifying, with my heart rate waving, and I go to a cardiologist there, and he's like, oh, you're fine. Just some tachycardia. Go home and check your thyroid. I was having heart palpitations. They were painful. They were taking my breath away. Heart palps have been huge. I was having feeling of like crushing my heart, which I found out is the lymph, because so much waste is created in your body that your whole lymphatic system gets blocked up. And then this is where everything has to drain, under your collarbones. This is where your vagus nerve is. So all of this is coming up and swelling. All of this, I had visual swelling and bogginess here. It was the lymph. I was terrified. I got home on a 5-hour flight somehow. I warned the flight attendant that I was feeling terrible. And I went straight to emergency, where they told me I was fine because my heart rate wouldn't go down, but it was coming in waves. So it was almost going into a heart block. And that's what can happen. If your heart goes below 30, which mine was at 40, like you can just drop dead.
Wow.
So, but it was going to like 40, and then it was going to 140 and staying there. My body was just trying to keep itself alive. I was static electric. I was terrified. Like I could cry talking about it right now. But then, I got my stealth infection panel back, and Lyme had been turned on. And I say turned on because I had evidence that I had fought it off in the past, right? Lyme disease, but I'd never been bit by a tick. Not that I know of. Everyone's like, it could be a nymph tick. I'm like, trust me, it's not a tick for me. Like, that is not it. And that got me even diving into Lyme more. And that's what I'm seeing being turned on in people a lot, even that are told like post-COVID, which they do. They have like the high spike protein, but they also have Lyme turned on. They have different viruses that were stealth in their body, because our bodies house and keep a lot under control at all times, surveying. If your immune system's robust enough, these things stay in your body at low grade. Some people understand things like herpes because, herpes is a stealth infection. So think about it. You don't have a cold sore and then you have a cold sore when your immune system drops. Those different infections like that are in our body, right? And people think Lyme is from a tick, but it can be from a mosquito bite. It can be passed on in utero. And you can not have an acute infection of Lyme, and it can just be stealth. It can live in your mouth. And then after you get some sort of dental work, it can enter through those cavitations in your teeth, which that I had a root canal right before all of this turned on, right? So it's that perfect storm. Any vector, any stinging insect can unfortunately carry Lyme. And, Lyme has these co-infections that are parasites that people think are rare. But honestly, when you read like these symptom patterns of some of these co-infections, and some of the co-infections, they call them Lyme co-infections, but you could get them from like a cat, like, toxoplasma or this. So, it sounds complicated, and really our body's doing all of this uncomplicated stuff without us knowing. And the thing is, and this is where I come back to, if we can keep our nervous system, if we can keep our liver not getting stagnated, if we can lower our toxic load like once a year, if we can go outside and ground, if we can have circadian rhythm where we, go to bed at proper times and rise with the sun and get sunshine, and light is so healing, and, it creates different microbes turned on that help to kill these other things. So without overcomplicating, but still being aware of the situation, because everyone has smart meters in their house now, which, you can get a cage for that to help. That's pulsing electromagnetic frequency. You have to realize you are a frequency being. It is so important for you to understand that you need to protect yourself from dirty electricity from these new not radio waves, new man-made waves that are detrimental. No matter if you Google it and they say it's 100% safe, they have not studied it. So how can you say that?
Yeah. And there are these beautiful devices. I've had the CEO of Soma Vedic, which have these beautiful EMF
Yeah, I
mitigating.
have one over there somewhere.
Yeah, I have one on my desk as well. It makes such a difference because especially if you live in a city, you can
Mm,
obviously control, they say like turn off your Wi-Fi at
yeah.
night, turn on your phone in airplane mode, etc. But obviously if you live in an apartment building or something like that, you can't control your neighbors, right? So it's trying to find the different strategies to mitigate it as well.
Yeah, but you lower it as much as you can, right? And
Yeah.
that's like the dose makes the poison. Like people understand that.
Yeah.
So any way that you can lower your dose, especially sleeping is a good time. Like don't have your phone close to you. But people don't realize too, like baby monitors,
Bluetooth. Yeah.
fans should be 8 feet from you. Your phone should be 5 feet because it doesn't actually reach very far, but you hold your phone all day. So a lot of people's symptoms are in their arms, and they're getting lymphatic drainage problems through their arms. They're getting swelling. They're getting what's called carpal tunnel. You're
Mm.
literally like frequent radiations going through your hands like all day long.
Mhm.
So put it down. I have one of those pens. I don't have it here that has the thing that you can touch your phone, and I'm trying to touch it less. If you download something on your phone, put it on airplane mode to read it. If you're writing a long email on your phone, put it on airplane mode, turn airplane mode off to send it. Like the dose is making the poison. So just lessen it as much as you can.
And I think a key thing there is also just to be aware if you put the phone in your pocket, or even
Yeah,
if you have
don't.
like a handbag for women, just put it in airplane mode. And
Hmm.
unless you're expecting an emergency call,
Yeah.
you can just take it out again, turn off the airplane mode, and you can catch up with whatever messages when you
Yeah.
choose.
I even have it like this and I'll put it in airplane mode, but if I can't, like I can hold it like away from me, right? Like I have it on a strap for the point that I can like not have it on me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just little things, but
Hmm.
I mean, I'll tell you, when I was finally could fly again, and it took me 2 years to heal, but that's short for when Lyme and all this stuff is turned on, because I'm seeing people who they're at the 3 year point and they haven't gotten better at all. And they're living in absolute torturous situations from inside their body. It's insane.
It sounds so horrendous. I'm so sorry you went through that, and it's just so incredible how quickly everything kind of flipped, right? And so, have you seen many cases like this? Would you say
Yes.
you're a more extreme case of it, or is this like a typical scenario that many more and more people are having?
No, more and more people are having it. And so it's different triggers. I work with a healthy population. So it's interesting because I've never seen these symptoms with them before. I've worked with NHL players for 15 years.
Hmm.
And it's turning on in them. Completely healthy. Everyone sees them as a picture of health, which, no one is, right? You have to get interested in your biology. There's a lot to dig down into. But I'll tell you, the people that are the healthiest are those people that let everything kind of roll off their shoulder. Those people, they don't like stuff doesn't get, it's like a personality type. But these guys, they're high strung already because they're in the media. They are performing at a high level, which obviously, usually there's a few of them that just are just like easy peasy and they're just comes to them naturally. But most of the time it's not like that.
Hmm.
And for them, it's turning on after a big night of drinking
Hmm.
alcohol. So
Hmm.
think about it. Your livers are doing what it can. They're highly active. They're under these fluorescent lights with, I mean, I can't even imagine how much dirty electricity is coming at them in those big arenas, right? And then, plus they're on their phone, they're playing video games. Like that's kind of their lifestyle, the way they wind down, whatever. They're staring at screens, this blue light. So, but their liver is like, and they have these stealth infections. No one's immune to these stealth infections. And so what my theory is and what I've seen and what I'm helping people is like their liver is stagnated, right? So that's what got me. I'm like, okay, it's always there's alcohol involved. And I was even having like a glass of wine at this time. Not that I drink a lot, but like it's bogging down and it's that straw that breaks the camel's back. It's usually for them, it's like a big night of drinking. One guy, it was like a night of espresso martinis and he was, on a first date and this girl was like, he was trying to keep up with her, like something crazy, and it turned on for him. Heart rate went up, never went down. All the symptoms, all the gastrointestinal symptoms, pain, liver pain, kidney pain, like damage to his kidneys for how much it was filtering. Like I mean, severe anxiety. The team was just trying to medicate him with anti-anxieties, which obviously wasn't helping because he never had anxiety before, right? So if someone never had anxiety before and now they're telling you that they want to jump out of their literal skin, like, then just like take them seriously, like try and find out, try and help these people. So anyways, and then we have to like peel back the layers. They get better faster. Like I got in contact with this guy kind of close to when he started feeling his symptoms by chance, because when I'm treating these guys, I talk a lot about my own symptoms. And so it pops in their head. Oh, that sounds like what Steph was saying happened to her. Mm-hmm. And so I'm getting these people. And I mean, I've had severe cases, and I mean, some people are vaccinated, some are unvaccinated with the COVID vaccine, which, you know, at first I was like, what is it? I hadn't had COVID yet. I hadn't been exposed to that vaccine. So that's why I was like, can it be something else? Could it be, because like COVID inflames the heart, right? So does Lyme though. And I hadn't had COVID yet, but I'll tell you, I started getting better. In February, I got COVID and then my heart got inflamed again. So that was really annoying. Yeah. And I had to, you know, really kind of treat that aggressively and make sure my lymph was moving and really focus on my liver. So the huge thing that I can tell people is that your cells need more oxygen when this is happening and when you're getting exposed to all of this. So that's why breathing techniques or anything to oxygenate, because there's hypoxia. Mm-hmm. There's minerals. Your minerals need balanced if you're going through this. So there's minerals.
From a functional medicine perspective, right? So people are aware.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Sorry. There's like lowering your dose of these exposures. There's all of that. And then there's, you know, getting at these stealth infections, but the liver, like the fluid mechanics in your body, if they are flowing, you're not going to have these crazy symptoms, right? So it's like a stagnation. So get that lymph moving, get someone who understands the liver and the gut and how it all ties together. You know, even activating your vagus nerve helps fluid mechanics. There's lots of ways that we teach people to do that. But part of the way that you heal your vagus nerve is you get rid of these stealth infections, right? Mm-hmm. You give your body a break. You lower your heavy metal load, because that's another thing. I think people who are reacting more to like the EMF, they have a higher load of metals already, right? So they're attracting more. So yeah, it makes sense, right?
Yeah, and I had a biological dentist on, Dr. Dome, as well, and we were having a conversation, not specifically on EMF, but just metals in the mouth. The mouth is the beginning of the gut. We know the gut's a second brain, right? And he's talking about metals in the mouth, and I'm of course thinking mercury fillings, which we were discussing as well. But then I realized, like, I have a metal wire behind my tooth, and this is like an antenna. Mm-hmm. Right. And if you think also for women wearing bras with metal wires in them, for example, I mean, these are all things that we need to be super aware of. Mm-hmm. You know, smartwatches I have, but it's on airplane mode, Wi-Fi off. Like, I'm not having this as an EMF field. My Oura ring I wear at night, it's in airplane mode as well. So it's just really reassessing, because we're so used to so many things, we forget what it is as well. But to just really, really pay attention to what is actually happening within our body and our system. Mm-hmm. And for people listening that say, okay, I haven't had this full scale attack, let's say, but I'm not feeling 100% optimal. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's my sleep, maybe it's my gut health. I'm not really sure. Mm-hmm. What are some steps you would say to like look out for? How can people get started in this optimization so that they don't end up with these full blown attacks?
Yeah. I mean, obviously my case was extreme. I almost feel like I get these things so that I can figure out what's going on in the bodies. And it's obviously opened my eyes to a whole new side that I didn't even quite understand. So, and when I talk, it's like, I don't want to scare people, but just people who have like generalized anxiety or even depression or, you know, even insomnia, like that's like a big sign of parasites. Like you don't have to have all the symptoms. It's honestly, for me, what happened was like every symptom I've had in my entire life came into like one moment. And it was like, I had to figure out each of them. And so find someone with insight, like not that your practitioner has to have been through exactly what I've been through, but often what gets people into like an alternative style of treating is some sort of close family member, or, you know, they really cared and they've been working with lots of people and they're like trying to actually figure it out. But you're going against a whole machine here when you get into an alternative care. You're going against like a norm, a whole societal norm. So like there has to be some sort of reason that they got into it, and maybe understanding their backstory, or, I think, and finding, I mean, even accounts on Instagram, like a lot of my colleagues, like they're just like, we're posting stuff that like, it seems like simple in this simple post, but that took years of learning or their own pain and suffering for them to put out that little tidbit, that aha moment that can be a game changer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's out there. So just start getting interested. I tell people, like, get biologically interested. Like, don't put your whole body health in the hands of somebody, because like they don't understand like what you're actually feeling, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the strange symptoms that I had that sound like you're actually crazy. Like, I mean, I felt crazy at times. Like, I don't understand how I can have shooting pain from that. I feel like I'm having a heart attack, but then all of a sudden I have shin pain, and like, and now I understand all that. And it's like these aha moments that took pain and suffering or take lots of experience. Like, you just got to find someone. And if that person that you're working with, that they're like, oh, I'm functional, but they're still like not getting to the root, or they're trying to and it's not really working, get another opinion, not in a bad way, always in a respectful way. Because if that practitioner is caring enough and they want to know, like if someone goes and they do something and it helps them, what did you do?
Yeah.
What did you do? Because I want to be able to use that on someone else has that symptom and we're a little bit stuck. Because it's there's some intricacies sometimes when you get into it, right? When you're not just doing like the blanket stuff that's going to help, when you only have, because prevention is worth what, a pound of the cure. And again, I'd like to think I was doing a lot for prevention, but I didn't know what was hidden in my body that turned on. When I look back at 2010, I had acute neuro Borreliosis. You know what that is? That is Lyme in your brain, acute Lyme in your brain.
Wow.
If you read a textbook of neuroborreliosis, that is what I had.
Wow.
It took me, another decade to figure that out. But my body was keeping it at bay, but something stressed it a little bit too much. And all of that got unwound. If I could have nipped it in the butt in that moment, right?
Yeah.
And like, it's not that, even like I work with other practitioners and I reach out there, like, it sounds like Lyme carditis or Lyme around your heart. And it did, but it just took so long to get the real answer and to get, like, I was treating it naturally, but I ended up having to take an antibiotic because it went so acute and it was so high. It was actually a good time for me to take it. When you understand Lyme, there's 3 phases of it. And when it's in that active form, you can wipe out those when it's in the spiral shaped form, which it's a spiral shaped bacteria, when it's not embedded in your tissue, because it's a very stealth, because it hides in your tissue. It goes in the cell. It doesn't stay in the serum. It's not easy to find. Right. And that's why it's eluded so many people, but it reared its ugly head, and when Lyme activates like that and creates trillions of other Lyme in your body, a lot of other stuff gets turned on. Totally. So I don't want that to happen to you. And that we check for stealth infections in perfectly healthy people now, because we want to know if it's there. We want to know how much we have to support the immune system. Like, we want to know your weak spots. And I think that is important, along with the metals, the mineral balance, the liver, like looking at regular blood work. The gut is huge. I mean, again, I fixed myself without knowing I had Lyme by working on my gut, by getting rid of, I only worked on gut parasites. I didn't even know about like live blood cell and looking at like the, you can see in a live blood cell, by the way, parasites swimming in your bloodstream. A live blood cell is just your blood on an electron microscope put onto a screen. And this is important for people because they think that you're crazy when you're talking about parasites. But when they see that little microscopic worm swimming in the serum, they go, oh. When they see the different red blood cell because it's got an egg in it, they're like, oh, right?
Yeah.
So people need that sometimes.
Yeah, no, I think it's so fascinating. Sadly, it's not more widespread that people around the world could, all have access to this. I think it's really finding someone, because you went through this. I think you've gotten to such a level that you know exactly what to look for and are aware of it. But, I think the healthcare profession, or I mean, this typical one is more the sick care profession, let's say. But even for those that are trying to go above and beyond and to be more informed of the latest research, etc., it's just having that time constraint, which is why it's the empowering people to understand, to know themselves. Like you said yourself, like you knew you weren't going crazy. You said you felt like you were, but you knew this is not normal bodily practices.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, where the tricky thing is, that we should always be very much aware of, I know myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there's stress, but like, what's the underlying? There's something underlying going on, and just to
Mm-hmm.
listen into that. Like, we're so much wiser than we give ourselves credit for, and
Yeah.
just following it down, especially if we're not in a good place. And
Yeah.
as you said yourself, if one person's limited in their experience or knowledge in an area, keep looking.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think part of the beauty of technology in the world is that it is potentially possible to have telemedicine conversations with an
Mm-hmm.
expert in another country,
Mm-hmm.
also. I'd love to ask you for vagus nerve. There's all these like new devices out, right? There's like
Mm-hmm.
Sensate and Pulsetto. I don't know if you've tried that as well. I have a few
Yeah.
of them here. What is your view on using some of these devices to stimulate the vagus nerve?
Um, so, I mean, I like them. One of the things when I was studying the vagus nerve was like, there was research on, they did an implantable device before they had these ones where you could do it externally.
Mhm.
In really sick people, they did a study and they put like an actual electrode like onto the vagus nerve and the person could stimulate their vagus nerve.
Mhm.
Um, and they were reversing autoimmune diseases. They were taking away seizures. Like it was crazy. So obviously, like I started to try to do things naturally. I do acupuncture. I'm a chiropractor by trade.
Mhm.
We were putting stim on needles and kind of stimming and like calming people down. So, it's electroacupuncture
Mhm.
and we were putting it on and people were getting Zen. I was doing it on myself, but I was like, one day I was having kind of panic and it was because of my gut and I was on a plane. So I took a toothpick because it has a small surface area, right? And I started tapping points that I knew were controlled by the vagus nerve and over my vagus nerve and over my sternum. And I was able to kind of calm myself down. So then I did get interested in, okay, is there an external stim that actually works? And there's the ones that I started off with, the one that you clip on your ear, right?
Mhm.
On the tragus of your ear, because the vagus nerve is most superficial there. And it was minimal. And then they started getting stronger on like the frequencies they had. And then they started getting, different machines. So my favorite is the Hoolist. And the reason is because so it has, every time you electrically stim through the skin, you need gel, right? You need some sort of gel and it goes on a thing.
Mhm.
So what they created was like the gel is part of the electrode. So it just has to be a tiny bit wet. And so that's the one I suggest, because to my players and even people, you can just like grab it and take off the lid and you can just stim right away. You don't have to put gel on.
Wow.
It's literally, yeah. So
What's it
I
called?
mean that's
It's
the one I use. Hoolist V Relief, Verelief.
spell who list?
Yeah, and so because I had the Gamma Core, which is the medical one, and the Hoolist is a much better price point and it's more convenient. So yeah,
Holist, or how do you spell it?
Hoolest. It's the gentleman's last name.
Okay. Hmm. Okay.
So that one I would say is the most user friendly, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And be careful when you're stimming, because some people are sensitive to electricity, and if you have had abnormal like heart electricity and stuff like that, you just start really low and see what your body can handle. Most people can, but like, when people are really sick and you just go to stim your vagus nerve, you need to like even start with the tapping first or something, and then, or a very low frequency, which you can start at like nothing and just like slowly work your way up, but see how you respond. Because electrical stim, like a direct kind of stim like that, it can sometimes like jolt. Your body's trying to do some stuff, right? Like your
Right.
body's trying to, yeah, that's when you use the cervical one, when it pulls down your lip.
Yeah.
But the Hoolist is closer to the ear. So it's using their auricular branch, which is a little bit more gentle and less troubling for people. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that like PEMF mats can help calm the vagus nerve. Red light, I have a red light that you can put topically on your body, and you put it over top of here because the vagus nerve travels from your brainstem, comes kind of your jawline, goes in behind your collarbones, and then starts to innervate your heart and all of the things. And it innervates the back of your throat. So gargling, gagging, all of that. So, there's natural ways that you can activate it. Eye movement. So there's a lot of fascial connections for the vagus nerve where it exits the foramen, which are the way it exits our skull, right? So it's a cranial nerve. It comes through a foramen, which is a hole, but it shares a sheath with a few other nerves, right? So one nerve, the accessory nerve, it shares some fascia with. So people, when they're really stressed, they get those tight traps because that's innervated by a cranial nerve. So working on that can help calm someone down. If someone's in panic and you massage the top of their shoulders, not only does it help for lymph drainage here, and, massaging here can help, and thumping your sternum can help. But also eye movements. So extreme eye movements. So getting someone to move their eyes, keep your head straight, but it's called far gazing. And that can help calm down your nervous system. Tongue, a lot of the tongue muscle, the glossopharyngeal nerve is another cranial nerve. So like tongue stretches or like humming, all of that stuff with your tongue, sticking out your tongue, like doing that with any like different movement, puffing out your cheeks, different sounds you can make. Listening to different sounds turns on your vagus nerve. So there's different ways if you can't handle a direct stim or if you don't want to purchase a direct stim. But like I said, lowering that toxic load, getting the lymph so it's like draining and the toxins aren't sitting right where your vagus nerve is, right? Then those are key things that are going to help you. And then any time that you can get yourself into that rested, like high vagal tone, the more that you can heal.
Yeah.
That's when you're in that state. So, work on that. Meditation, breath work, right? Breath work, they've shown like people don't have this time to meditate. You can, with breath work, mimic what an advanced meditator can do just by like focusing on the exhale. Like the vagus nerve is in charge of the exhale, right? Anything that increases like acetylcholine is that's cold showers increase acetylcholine. That's, the neurotransmitter for the vagus nerve. Anything that increases GABA. I use GABA a lot, GABA chewables, anything that's your relaxing kind of, we're all just too hyperstimulated, right? We're in this glutamate pathway, which is the more hyperstimulating. So, just like helping people with that, and actually GABA also helps you regulate your calcium levels. So, all of that helps because that's overstimulating the nervous system. There's so much. We have a vagus nerve guide where we kind of go over all the things and tell people to pick a few that kind of help them more. So yeah, that's obviously huge, but human touch, being around humans, community, it doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't always have to be a machine either, but yeah.
Exactly. It's like back to basics, exactly. Grounding, etc. I just wanted to touch on your detoxification. How much have you used sauna and maybe hyperbaric oxygen therapy? Yeah, for the
So I love sauna, and I do everything I can to increase oxygen. If it's breathing, I have an oxygen machine that makes oxygen water. I send people to oxygen baths because there are certain places that have these hyperoxygenated baths, which I like better than hyperbaric because your skin absorbs way more than your lungs have a capacity where it breaks off, right? I think hyperbaric's great, but I would say that the baths, and that's from me doing both, were like much more effective. I send people to oxygen baths to recover even when they're athletes. So oxygenation is huge. We had an oral oxygen supplement that we had, but there's lots of other supplements that increase your oxygen that are super helpful right now. Like even those, those things with deep green pigments like chlorophyll, chlorella, all that. But when you lower your toxic load, you get better oxygenation. We do things that increase nitric oxide, but not using arginine and citrulline. We don't use that because what we found is that creates more free radicals because a lot of people have too low of a certain enzyme. So, but if you use things like beet powder, and everyone's like, some people are scared of beet powder because it has oxalates, but I'm telling you, your oxalates and your kidney stones were not from beets. They're from mold and candida in your body. So just get that out of your head, get rid of the parasites and eat the beets. But things like that, that's going to help your oxygenation, right? Because that gets the blood flowing. But breathing can do that too. Like just, yeah. There's something called the live O2, which is a bicycle where they deprive you of oxygen and then they shoot oxygen in, and you're doing exercise, and it causes this expansion of arterioles, and it gets blood into those small areas that are hypoxic. Yeah, there's lots of different tools that increase oxygenation. But yeah, if hyperbaric's what you have access to, any way to increase oxygen to the cells is a yes. And then sauna, I mean, you got to read the literature on sauna. I mean, it is just protect yourself from cardiovascular disease. You cut it by 50% if you go in like 4 times a week and get your body like, oh my gosh, if you add infrared, you can add ozone into there. Oh my, like, I don't know. It's just like so powerful that like, I can't believe I didn't talk about it yet. You're sweating out the toxins. We get people to take a binder like before and after, or during sipping on a binder. We get them to make sure they shower afterwards to get those, some people even say shower before. But if you're, saunas are a no-brainer. I mean, if you're going to invest in a tool, I'd say sauna. They have like some really cool like in-home saunas, the pop-up ones, whatever. Like, I would say that
they're
is
phenomenal.
a good tool.
Yeah, they're really, really great. And it's so funny because it's like a biohacking tool. But my like then 94-year-old grandmother used to go like every year and do the sauna, and then you go to the cold plunge, and then you rest, and then you repeat about 3 times, and you're like a newborn baby again. So, and just these old school spas in Europe that they've been doing this for hundreds of years.
But that's what we have to look into, right? Like
Yeah.
what we've been doing for hundreds of years. And unfortunately, they've buried a lot of that. But like the frequency machine, the Rife machine was created, gosh, they figured that out in the 30s, I think, or maybe it's the 50s. So anyways, whatever. They're like things that have been buried. I mean, there was even tradition around food. Every like traditional people that still work with like a traditional diet, there's always some sort of purge or some sort of like, I mean, Greeks chew mastic gum after meals. Like, there's like in Japan, they have that whole like, they know they're eating parasites. So they have the ginger and the wasabi, the spice to kill it. And then they have like the unagi or whatever it's called, or the stuff after that's full of probiotics. Like, we have it. We've lost
there.
all this like powerful knowledge that like, sometimes the easiest answer is like the proper answer, or it's like go back to the basics for a lot of things, because like even like what's making us sick, like all these processed foods, all these chemicals added to everything, like, we're being sprayed with chemicals. We're like, where there's heavy metals in the air, like it's just crazy. So yeah, back to basics.
Back to the basics, back to the roots, at least a few times a year. I think for me, it's replenishing by the sea and just those beautiful negative ions and everything as well. It's
Yes.
like, I love
I
it.
mean,
It's my happy place.
yeah, so that's the thing with EMF. I scare everyone. I don't want to do that. But go and ground, and you get you just need to recharge your body. So it's like, because we can see some people can cope with this. Obviously, I was sensitive and there was stuff in my body that made me sensitive, but this is going to keep coming up because they just now 5G plus, which was only on like 40 stadiums, 5G plus is now getting released to everyone. So that's the next. And then 6G is there. So it's like, clearly they're not going to change and start to do the studies like that they need to. So I guess we have to adapt, but yeah, but you can go, and the sea is so powerful with helping you recharge and just grounding in general. But if you can add the ocean and the sand, I mean,
Yes, here's to more of that as well. Stephanie, before we finish up today, what excites you most about the future of health and well-being and longevity over the coming years and beyond?
I mean, I think I have to go back to like, if you want to think of the future of medicine, then think in terms of frequency, because I think there's all these new frequency machines and I've experienced them. And I think it can be really powerful and non-invasive. And if we can find ways to negate what's coming at us, I think that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited to see how the body can heal. Like, I mean, we're having some very profound changes, and it's empowering. I don't ever want it to be not empowering to people, right? People get scared to get results from us. And I said, no, this is the information you need. You're already having these symptoms. It's already happening.
Yeah.
Like, we're uncovering what can help you heal and live your best life. So yeah, that's exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah. For my listeners interested in understanding the vagus nerve, gut health, etc., where are some good online resources? Where can they follow what you're up to? Where would you point them?
So we have now our YouTube channel starting. Like, the videos are they're not that professional, but I'm just trying to get all of these little insights out. So we're going to be opening that up because it was just for our patients. But now, so there's that. There's our Vegas clinic Instagram, where we're posting a lot of stuff. There's my Instagram, Dr. S. Canestraro. We have our website, vegasclinic.com, and we're coming out with more and more resources.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think of other people that talk really well about it. There's Dr. The lymphatic mojo guy. He has actual courses on the vagus nerve, which eventually we will do. But, there's just type in vagus nerve and lots of stuff starts to come up now. It's trending.
Yeah, beautiful. Do you have a final ask, recommendation, or any parting thoughts or message for my audience today?
Yeah, it's I've said it, I think, already, but it's just get biologically interested. Don't give your power away. Start to learn about your body. I think it's something that should have been part of our education, and there is information out there. And funny enough, it's on Instagram and TikTok and social media. But find people that are talking something that goes, that makes sense, because it should make sense. So back to the basics, make it all make sense, and find people that support you in helping you make sense of what's going on in your body.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening around the world. Such a pleasure. And see you again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.